Hey everyone, so today I wanted to talk about the media and I wanted to talk about um, how it in fact can lead to an eating disorder, but how it's not the sole source of every single eating disorder. I think a lot of the times people would love to assume that eating disorders are because of the thin models or the idea that our society glamorizes the very lean and sometimes emaciated frame. And I think that a lot of the times people do say, oh, the media is the only reason why you have an eating disorder. It's just because our society says so. It's either they blame it on society or they blame it on the mother, is my other interpretation. But what I want to offer in this video is kind of like a look at the other causes and possible factors of an eating disorder, and kind of, although I do think that our society is screwed up and that we do promote this very skeletal frame when there are at least statistics show 11 million Americans suffering from eating disorders. It's kind of weird to look at it in that light, because people always think, oh, it's probably not that big. But I think that the media does have a huge influence in eating disorders, but I don't think it's the only reason. Um, the thing that comes to mind when I think about the media and eating disorders, in addition to the models that first come to mind and very thin figures, is the media's fascination with eating disorders. Back in 1983, Karen Carpenter died of anorexia nervosa, and people had no idea what that was, and it was just so far-fetched, and no one had even heard of starving themselves. Like people were still doing it, but it was not something that the media discussed. But people followed Karen Carpenter and they watched her as she slowly starved herself to death. And from her, we have suddenly gained this fascination with eating disorders and glamorizing them on TV. I know we have followed the stories, many of us, of Tracy Gold. We followed Demi Lovato. We followed Portia de Rossi. We have followed Kate Moss. We followed everyone who comes to mind with an eating disorder. We probably have looked online at celebrities who've had an eating disorder, looking at Calista Flockhart and people who have eating disorders and are in the public light. They are somebody that we do look at, and we look at their frame and see, like, some of us might look for tips and see how they are doing that. Others might look just at the person and see a skeleton. But I think that the important thing to call to mind is our media is becoming slowly fascinated with eating disorders. Recently, we've had loads of movies and literature being written about eating disorders. We have Starving Secrets with Tracy Gold. We have TV movies like For the Love of Nancy. We have Sharing the Secret. We have all of these movies, and then we have literature. The memoirs apart, because memoirs is telling your own story, so you could consider Unbearable Lightness by Portia de Rossi, Room to Grow by Tracy Gold, or there's Wasted, of course, by Maria Hornbacher. That's probably one of the most famous ones. And I think people look at them and sometimes they think that our society, yes, is glamorizing it, but it's when we follow around the stories and don't say that anything's wrong. We say that this is what the person's going through, but not really showing like how irrational that is. So it's very easy for an 11-year-old impressionable girl to go onto lifetime.com or whatever their website is and turn on Starving Secrets with Tracy Gold and see how these women have developed eating disorders and some of their tricks in becoming thin. And I know there's also been a rise in the pro-Anna, pro-Mia websites. They have actually, I forget the name of the documentary, but I watched a British documentary talking about how pro-Anna and pro-Mia websites haven't been shut down. It's not illegal. Yes, they are like slowly being taken away, but they're still out there. People can still easily access like media and like the pictures. Like a lot of the times pro-ana websites have like a thinspiration section of these pictures of all of the very thin models, which most of them have been photoshopped. I think that one interesting thing is there were two recent photos that were banned in the UK because their photoshopped nature portrayed an unrealistic idea of what the woman could look like, and it was banned because of how fake it was. And the two people, I forget whom it was, but the two people were very famous. They it would be like saying like Oprah, like somebody like that, like a big name, and yet these pictures were banned because of how fake they were. So I think that there are things that our society is doing to stop like spreading eating disorders, but it is really easy for somebody to watch a movie and like read a book. I know there's like Winter Girls by Lauren Halston, her, whoever wrote Winter Girls, and things like that that people can just look at. And our society, yes, does have a fascination with the thin, almost skeletal frame. Um, but there's also, like, in thinking about the development of eating disorders, it's also important to realize that there are many biological factors. If somebody in their family has an eating disorder, they are predisposed. I was reading a psychology book. I don't know what it was, but it was talking about eating disorders, and it said that that people like have a sensitivity from birth to possibly develop an eating disorder, and it's kind of like the butterfly effect, like that one thing that's there at the right, like right time, right place, or wrong time, wrong place, but that it's like that last thing, just that's what triggers an eating disorder, and can result in a serious and life-threatening issue. And I think the one thing that comes to mind, in addition to the biological, is if you grow up in a family that is dysfunctional, maybe you fight around meal times. Studies do show that if there's tension around meal times in the household, children are likely to not eat because they don't like eating. They associate it with that tension and with that pain and anger and fighting. Also, studies also show that in addition to the biological aspects of eating disorders, there are the social factors, which would be the media, but it is very much affected by traumas and abuses. If somebody has been sexually abused, if they have been verbally abused, emotionally neglected, if they have been suppressed their whole life. I know in my own personal life, I I grew up in a family, and well, yes, everyone grows up in a family, but I grew up in a family that does not believe in expressing emotions. My mom is not attached to her emotions and does not understand how somebody could have an emotion. Um, I know I was upset about something recently, and she told me to just get over it because I didn't deserve to feel upset about it, even though what had happened was true. Like I had every right to be angry and upset, and yet she didn't see that. Um, but then it gets really confusing to people who are living in this situation, watching their parents and watching maybe a sibling go through this process, telling them that they can't feel. And eating disorders are about getting in control of all of your feelings and kind of blocking them out, being numb to them, because the only thing that you are feeling is the starvation, or is that relief after a purge. So I think that really covers that aspect. There is, again, the sexual abuse. Verbal abuse is one thing that is often overlooked. If you have somebody who is calling you worthless, telling you that you are nothing, telling you that you don't deserve to eat, that is verbal abuse. If you have someone who is telling you, who's over health conscious and is telling you that you shouldn't be eating things, and that, specifically with my mother again, everything leads to a terminal illness. So if I eat one package of Skittles, I will develop adult onset diabetes. Or if I have a Powerade, I will get cancer. Like, things like that don't really happen. But if you grow up in a household where there are those pressures and those health conscious attitudes put towards food, it does like attribute to that. And lead to a very serious illness. So I think that, yes, our society does glamorize the thin frame, and it does make it very easy to access tips, tricks online. I know a lot of YouTubers have made videos about how the first thing that you look when you go into Google, if you type in "I want to be a," the drop box of suggested searches says anorexic, because there have been a slew of people who have gone onto Google and just looked up, I want to be anorexic, as if they would just become anorexic. Like, it's a mental illness. It's, I don't know, something that gets to me. But I think the thing is, our society does make it really easy in order to access tips, tricks, in order to continue the eating disorder and living in the distorted frame of mind. So I think that the one thing to look at is, I know people would say that, oh, well, you can't change society. It's just the way it is. And yes, it is going to be difficult to change society. But the way to do that is to spread the movement that love of yourself and love of who you are is more important. I know I'm actually a collaborative person on the channel Perfecting Your Skin, which was created by another YouTuber, Lauren. She created this organization, and it's talking about just being comfortable and perfect and knowing that every aspect of you is flawless when you're in your own skin. But when you try to compare your skin to another's, it's not the same because it's not who you are. And I think that that's the message that we need to get out, and that by having a positive view of yourself and stuff like that, that is how we would change society. That for the future generations, that they might look upon their elders, they might look upon role models and see that having a thin frame and being healthy isn't a bad thing, but when it borders on the edge of obsession and an eating disorder, that is when it's not healthy. And by watching family members who have a good connection with themselves, maybe they have positive affirmations that they use daily in their life, those things are the things that will help our future generation and in turn change society. So I think that's all I really wanted to say for this video. If you guys have any questions you want me to address, feel free to post them below or send an inbox to me. And for all of my new subscribers, thank you. And I will be back soon. Bye.